Welcome to the Parkinson's Project podcast. The Parkinson's Project seeks to erase the stigma associated with Parkinson's disease while empowering and inspiring those dealing with the affliction to live life to the fullest. The Parkinson's Project aspires to build an engaged, supportive community while examining the journey of living with Parkinson's disease through a positive, empowering perspective. Here is your host of the Parkinson's Project podcast, Tim McNiff.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tim McNiff, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the Parkinson's Project podcast. The Parkinson's Project seeks to stop the shame associated with the disease and instead empower and inspire those dealing with the affliction to live life to its fullest. The intent of the Parkinson's Project is to share the stories of the people who are living with PD, share best practices from the medical people who are on the front line working to find a cure, and we'll hear from the advocates, those people who are helping Parkinsonians deal and adapt through diet, exercise, and of course, with love, understanding, and unconditional support. We're going to try to keep our episodes to about 20 to 30 minutes in length, but if we find ourselves in the middle of a compelling conversation, we do reserve the right to extend that conversation to a second episode with the intent of delivering tangible, beneficial content to all of you who engage with us, and we encourage that engagement with an ultimate goal of putting ourselves out of business, creating a time when there's no longer a need to talk about PD. And it is with that we welcome our first guest to the Parkinson's Project. Linda Muir is a well-known ballet teacher in the West Metro area of Minneapolis, Minnesota, but Linda is here for two reasons today. First, she's an advocate for her husband, Michael, who is a Parkinsonian, and she's here to talk about her work in creating a movement art experience. Linda, welcome to the Parkinson's Project.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
I have to, full disclosure here to you, those of you who are listening or perhaps watching this, to whichever vertical you're encountering this content, Linda and I do share a history. She taught ballet to both of my daughters, for which she is most fondly remembered.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, well, you were a good teacher. You were a very you gave of yourself to all of your students.
Oh,
my girls were never in the front row. But they gave it an honest effort and you rewarded them for that. And that's much appreciated. So why is she here? That's not to talk about my kids or ballet. Ballet to maybe some extent, but we had a chance meeting. And that was after I had become involved with the concept of the Parkinson's Project. And Linda and I were reintroduced. And you talked about dance and movement being an effective form of physical therapy for people with PD. Nobody joins this club because really they want to. And we'd like to be able to do away with it, of course. You got here because your husband is a Parkinsonian.
Yes, he was diagnosed 5 years ago, May. Yeah.
And so we want to make the distinction that while your background is in dance, you are not a dance therapist per se. Is that correct?
Correct. A dance therapist, similar to music therapists, use their art form as a means of emotional or psychological and sometimes for other reasons. But it's a form of therapy that you're actually trained in scientifically. And that's not what I do. I do dance as an art form, and that's my background, specifically ballet and the teaching of ballet. And so I come from it from an artistic angle rather than a therapeutic angle per se.
So is this something when you became involved in this and thought you could lend a hand, was there already people out there sort of doing and applying their dance background the way you are? Or is this something you've come a novel approach?
No, well, yes and no. The Mark Morris group out of Brooklyn, New York, started teaching Parkinsonians just as a community outreach. Over the past 10 years, both with scientific support and other artistic support, they've developed a program of training other teachers, other dance movers, how to relate and how to have best practice when presenting dance material to Parkinsonians. So I went through an online training program with them. That said, as always, I do things in the way that both interests and work for me. And it's important that I relate to my students and that I have a flexibility in what I present so that I can best relate to them, basically.
And they to you, and
Yes.
give them, I would guess, the most benefit. So let's talk about that. There are options when it comes to physical therapy for PD.
Mhm.
You know more about this than I do. I'm sort of new to this whole thing, but dance, boxing, Tai Chi, pedaling for PD, you told me, is a very big thing. So let's talk about the direct benefits of movement art experience. What do you want to bring to people who have PD through movement art experience?
Okay. First of all, what I'm bringing is the art experience, and that's about building community with art. And that's an important place of expression, self-expression. So when you do a class in physical therapy or maybe pedaling for Parkinson's, the idea of personal expression really doesn't come into being or account. So that makes us different. Secondly, when you are learning a dance, you're having to engage your cognition and your ability to memorize movement. And that's an important aspect of continuing workout for a Parkinsonian. And then the third benefit is that you're actually moving, and you're moving your joints in a range of, through your whole movement range, basically. And that benefit is equally as important as any physical therapy that you're doing. So basically, if you're willing to move and engage your body, you are helping yourself be the best you can be with your Parkinson's.
So I'm intrigued by the second aspect that you were talking about, where you're making this connection, in your mind to the actual physical act, and because as you said, if you're pedaling, I can understand the direct benefits of I rode X number of miles, or I sparred or hit the bag for 15 minutes or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I got in a workout. I worked my muscles. What is the benefit, and where does that play into Parkinson's, where you're the cognitive part of it?
Well, because as a dancer, you learn a sequence of movements, like sentences, and those sentences create a paragraph and then a story. So with the pedaling, the exchange might be how high you are rotating the pedals, but the reality is you're doing a very high repetition of one action, correct? And in dance, you are sequencing different kinds of motions and coordinating your arms and your legs and your facings, and that supports your cognition. On top of that, and we haven't talked about this, there is the concept of a brain dance. And that is something that I intend to bring forward with my students. And these go through all of the developmental phases that we do as a child to build our neurological pathways for learning. So simple things as crossing your limbs across your body, or opening and expanding your body and becoming small. These help rebuild neurological pathways that may have been diminished with Parkinson's. So it's been scientifically studied, and this is an additional benefit that dance can bring to Parkinson's patients. Again, in a fun way of moving with a community.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. So if someone is saying, okay, male, put myself in it. If I'm a Parkinsonian and I'm dealing with this, my thought is I might be more inclined to ride a bike or go to the boxing class, do something a little bit more macho. Am I going to put myself out there for this dance? And if so, what's the payoff? So I think this is intriguing to me that you're saying that you've identified, or researchers have identified, that there is this sort of this break between the mind and the body, and the knowledge of where the body is in space.
Yes, absolutely. And Parkinsonians lose the ability to understand where they are in space, right? Their proprioception is quite diminished, and they may not understand that they're moving very slowly or moving very smallly, or which arm they're using, if they're using their right arm or their left arm, vice versa. And what dance does is it frees them from having to be so concerned about the specifics and just follow along, because my motion is reflected to them. They can mirror that motion, and it becomes easier for them to experience the expansive movement because they're following somebody who is moving expansively.
And then what's the real world application of this, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I couldn't do this, or I wasn't doing this? Is there a real world application?
Well, of course, freedom of motion, better balance, which is a big thing. Of course, there's the sense of community that is so important for mental health, to feel like you have people that you can relate to and that you're having this experience with together. And then again, to go back to the cognition, that is so important, that I'm asking for a complexity, and I'm asking my students to strive for that complexity. And the fact that we're doing art, just like any dancer, you practice your dances. So it's not that I'm just doing an exercise routine. We're developing the dance, and we're repeating and practicing the dance so that the coordination of the sequence becomes more readily accessible to the Parkinsonian.
As we mentioned off the top, your husband, Michael, is a Parkinsonian. From the personal experience, what benefits have you seen him get? Because I would think that if my wife was trying to teach me something, or something like that, there may be some of those husband-wife issues that I'm like, can I have someone else as my teacher? But I mean, so how do you guys work through that? And then how is this, have you seen the direct benefit for him in his day-to-day experience?
Yeah. First of all, Michael is also an artist because he works for a theatrical design firm out of Los Angeles.
Okay.
And they build themed experiences and museums and traveling shows, basically all over the world. He also has a big respect for my expertise in what I do and in my field. And so there's a trust that, one, I'm trying to do what's best and beneficial for him. Secondly, that I have the expertise to back that up. And then third, there's the continuing communication of my saying, all right, is this too much for you? Or his saying, Linda, this is too complicated. We need to step back a little bit. But that's because his cognition is very good at this time. So I think there's that idea of trust. And of course, love and understanding. The benefits that we have seen, especially with my involvement in the past, I don't know, year or so, is that he has actually improved on the numerology system that they have that I don't quite understand. He came in at a 9, and we've not changed medications. We've not changed anything. We've only changed exercise and my working with him and his weekly going to physical therapy. And he's now at a 5. I would have been happy
Wow.
if we were just at a 9. I didn't know that we could reverse it. So this is a major benefit. His movement is much faster. His balance is very, very good. And when travel opens again, I feel comfortable with his ability to travel internationally without me.
That's got to be a great relief for both of you.
Yeah.
So that really is interesting to me. I wasn't aware of the sort of the grading or rating system either, and I can't imagine how encouraging or exciting that must have been to not only see a progression, but a reduction in those numbers.
Exactly.
Where would you describe what you do, falling in sort of the holistic approach in terms of versus occupational therapy? Or to dance therapy or something else? Where does what you do fit in that range?
Well, right now, I think that I'm working at Struthers Center with Michael's physical therapist and music therapist. And I kind of straddle the two because I understand movement to music, and I understand how to communicate that to participants. That's what I do as a teacher. And I understand what a physical therapist is trying to get because I understand anatomy and kinesiology and how our bodies work. And so I kind of straddle that, and they allow me to participate and accept my expertise, and we kind of learn together. And I have to say, I've learned as much from that interaction as I did from the Mark Morris course I took online. And then Michael's there, and sometimes it's 3-on-1, poor guy. But he's clear with his communication, and I also can sense when he's ready for more material or more complex material. And yeah, it's a good working relationship that we all have together.
It sounds great. So if someone is listening and they had started out and thinking, I'm not so sure about this, I would imagine that even hearing the personal story about Michael's regression, through this would be something where somebody might say, I'd be willing to kick the tires on this at least. If someone wanted to try movement art experience for themselves or to get someone they know who may benefit from this exposed to it, how do they go about that?
There are a couple of things. One, I would contact your local Parkinson's Foundation because they often have knowledge of different teachers. I think there are 4 teachers in town in the Twin Cities area who've been trained through Mark Morris. Additionally, you can go up online to the Dance for PD website, and they have free Zoom classes 5 days a week, anywhere from the dance to meditation to yoga. They also have an all-standing class. So if it's early stages of Parkinson's, then they can stand for the entire class. They also have a library of materials. I just happen to be working through Struthers with their Community Connect program, 30 minutes of movement. And I have to say this, we're not doing ballet. It's a little jazzy. I'm using 60s and 70s pop music.
A little disco mixed in there?
Oh, well, we'll get to that. But I don't know. We're doing the bus driver, We're going back. We're going there. So, for some participants, they may actually be bedridden. So I want to do things that are as enjoyable to just watch as they are for those who can actually participate.
And if someone wanted to get in touch with you directly, are you open to that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Linda S. Muir at AOL.com.
Okay, and then you and I will work together to put these
Yeah.
resources, list these resources together, and we'll put a written piece accompanying this, which will go on our website. We mentioned off the top, Michael, you live with the Parkinsonian.
Yeah.
Drawing from that experience, what do you want someone who's been recently diagnosed with PD to know about this?
Yeah. First, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to die from Parkinson's. That's number one. Number two, you need to advocate for yourself and build a medical team that knows you intimately, knows your family, knows your story. That's important, that you have a good relationship with your medical team. Educate yourself. There are wonderful books and resources, especially through the Parkinson's Foundation, that little booklets on cognition, sleep, exercise, nutrition, all the things that will help support the decisions you make as a family. Important, take your meds on schedule. This is a really important thing. That's how you're going to be the best you can be. Be involved in your journey. Exercise, exercise, exercise. Everybody says it. We all need to do it. This is an important aspect of maintaining your balance and maintaining the quality of life. And finally, remember that your journey will be unique to you and your situation. And what somebody else is going through may not be a reflection of what you ultimately will be going through. And so for me, one of the ways I manage this whole thing is to say, what's in front of me today? What do we need to deal with today? And not concern myself with, oh, what's going to happen? I don't have control of that. We have control of taking our meds, doing our exercise, having a fulfilling life as well as we can for today, period.
Beautiful. So let's talk about people like me, civilians. I don't know anyone directly involved with Parkinson's. When I was asked to participate in this project, I was like, sure, I'll take a look at it. And I'm constantly, I didn't know that. I didn't know it. So this has been a real revelation education for me. If someone has tripped across this podcast and they're not directly affected by PD, or they know someone who is, can they still play a role in helping to eradicate this affliction?
Absolutely. So the Michael J. Fox, the actor, his foundation does a lot of studies, and it's as important for non-Parkinsonians to be involved so they have comparison. And for instance, I'm involved in the study, but we really need men to be involved in the study who don't have Parkinson's. And they simply send you questionnaires every couple months or so, ask you things like, how are you sleeping? How's your balance? Have you had a fall? It's simple things that take, maybe max a half hour every other month or so to just fill out and be a part of that study. Yeah.
There's no blood draw. You don't have to leave your home.
Exactly.
This is simple and painless. Yes. Guys, you can do it too.
Yes.
All right. We have mentioned Michael on a couple of occasions, and you mentioned how he has made some progression. I'm hoping that he'll take a listen and see what we discussed here today. And if he's up for it, I'd love to be able to meet him and speak with him. Yeah. I mean, I met him in the store when we kind of bumped into each other. But I mean, I'd like to hear his story if he's willing to share it, because one of the things I've come to understand is that it's empowering for other people to hear stories, because there is a shame or fear that comes along with this. Yeah. So I'm hoping that no pressure, but if he's comfortable with that,
I'm sure he would love to do it. Yeah.
So let's stay in touch. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. Linda Muir is a dance and movement specialist. Linda, we thank you for joining us and for all you do to help those clients who are dealing with PD. And we wish you and Michael nothing but the best going forward, of course. And we want you to stay engaged with the Parkinson's Project as it continues to take shape. And with that, for executive producer Pat Forcia, I am Tim McNiff, thanking you for joining us. And we look forward to working with all of you as we seek to build a supportive, empowering community through the Parkinson's Project.
Thank you for engaging with the Parkinson's Project podcast. Be sure to look for more content on the Parkinson's Project Facebook page, and we'll see you right here on the next edition of the Parkinson's Project podcast.